So Gallup just published new data on AI at work, and the headline, quite frankly, is a little bit brutal. Nearly half of the people who have used AI tools and have them available to them are choosing not to use them. So I'm going to show you exactly why that's happening and why and what you need to do to actually fix that. Then AI adoption across businesses just crossed around 50% for the first time, and I'm going to break down what that means if you've not got that started yet. And Microsoft just partnered with Publicis to build AI agents that run marketing campaigns on their own. Pretty cool, eh? Anyway, plus I'll also show you at the end of this how to turn a messy process into a clean, usable SOP, standard operating procedure, in under 2 minutes or so using Claude, and I'm going to do that live on screen, so stay tuned for that. If you don't know who I am, my name's Gavin. I'm the founder of Ideal and Digital, and every day I bring you the daily dose of AI in the world. Previous to this, I was a senior manager at Europe's fastest growing edtech unicorn, where I managed the software engineering, digital business, and digital marketing programs, and got to work with some pretty cool companies like Google, Meta, and Sky. But enough of that. Let's just jump on into segment one, which is nearly half of your employees are not using the AI tools that you have bought them. And that's in a recent study by Gallup. And they just surveyed around 24,000 employees in the US about AI at work. And the number one thing that jumped off the page is that 46% of employees are choosing not to use AI at work. And the main reason is that they just prefer doing the things that they've always done in the way that they've done them. And not necessarily because the tools are specifically bad, it's because, frankly, nobody has given them a reason to change. But it gets really, really interesting is if you go on down all the way to this particular part of the page, is that Gallup looked at what separates teams that use AI from the teams that don't use AI. And the single biggest factor that came out is whether the manager actively supports it. And when a manager does that, 78%, huge, 78% of the team will use it regularly. Now, when a manager doesn't do that, that then drops down to 44%. That's nearly double the adoption rate just from having a boss who says, yep, we're going to be doing this, we're going to be using AI. So if you're running a team of 30, 40, 50 individuals and you've bought them ChatGPT or Claude, or you've got subscriptions to Gemini, there is a good chance that close to half of those individuals are not using it or barely touching it because your managers aren't actively encouraging them to do that. And that is confirmed here in this particular article, where managerial support is strongly associated whether AI use becomes routine rather than occasional. Within public sector organizations that have adopted AI, 65% of employees in high support environments use AI frequently, compared to 37 in low support environments. That's a 28-point gap. Total use is also slightly higher under high support, 88 versus 78%. Now, on top of that, only 10% say it has actually changed how work gets done across the business. And that gap is the difference between individuals just playing around and tinkering with the actual tools themselves, rather than actually creating real workflow change. In my opinion here, the practical takeaway is pick one workflow specifically. Tell your team that we're going to be rebuilding this with AI, not just adding AI to it, because you want to go with an AI plus mindset rather than just plus AI at the end of it. And then show them how to do it. Support them through it. Get them to play around. Run a hackathon of some sort. And then this managerial support, that's not optional. So according to this data that I've just shown you, it is the difference between adoption and just wasting your time and your money. So next up for today is that more than half of all businesses are now paying for AI tools, which is good. But remember from the previous one, you need to make sure that your team is using that. So Ramp AI here, this business specifically tracks what businesses are actually spending money on through their corporate cards. Their April AI index just came out, and the big number is 50.4%. Nice. So a year ago, you can see that that was 35. So half a business on Ramp are now paying for AI, which is just incredible. Love that type of adoption. Love to see that. And hopefully this is creating a huge change within your business as a whole. So if you run a professional services firm or a business that's not using AI yet, then you're now kind of in this smaller group. So more of your competitors are going to be using AI, and they are paying for it to get the better results too. Now, the other stat worth knowing is this one specifically here, is that the gap between the two biggest platforms is closing really fast. So OpenAI sits at around 35% of businesses. Anthropic, the company behind Claude, is at around 31%, and that gap was 11 points back over in February. So it's now under 5. So in professional services, specifically, Anthropic is already leading in that particular field. And if you watch my episode from yesterday, we now know that Claude and Anthropic have overtaken OpenAI and ChatGPT as becoming the fastest growing business at $30 billion at the end of April in annualized revenue. Ramp also found that the biggest predictor of whether a business uses AI or not is who has actually funded that business. So we need to follow the money. And what it found is that VC-backed firms are now 80% and private equity-backed firms are at 64%. So everyone else is then around the 45% mark. So the companies with the strongest growth mandates are the ones spending the most on AI. So you're probably wondering, what does that mean, Gavin? I have no idea. So if you are a self-funded or a bootstrapped business, then you do not need outside money to adopt AI, but you do need to be deliberate about it. The firms at 80% did not get there by accident. They really pushed for this. They picked a tool, they picked a workflow, and they made it part of how it is that they work. And that is the whole approach. One tool, one process, one team member who then owns it, and then you build from there and you add on top of it from there. Okay, next up we have Microsoft and Publicis building AI agents that run campaigns. So Publicis and Microsoft, they have just announced a partnership to build what they call an agentic marketing platform. In plain English, that just means that they're bringing AI agents into the world and they're going to find your best consumer segments. They're going to write personalized content. They're going to push campaigns live in front of those people, and then they're going to be able to adjust budgets all in real time. Sounds super scary, but there will be a human involved to help kind of set the rules, set the guardrails, so that AI just doesn't go off and do its thing that we're kind of seeing now. So Publicis is putting Microsoft Copilot on every single one of their desks, and they've got a company about 114,000 employees in it at the moment, and they're going to be using Azure as the main cloud provider for their systems. It's going to run on a whole bunch of other systems, whole different types of data layers that we don't necessarily need to worry about right now, because you're probably saying, Gav, what do you mean? This doesn't really relate to me. I've got maybe a smaller business. I don't have 114,000 people on my staff. You've probably got something between 30 and 70 from there. So the reason this specifically matters to you is because your clients are going to be reading about this. They're going to be asking you questions, and they're going to be saying, when the largest marketing company in the world says, right, our AI agents plan, they run, they optimize campaigns without a person necessarily in the loop. Okay, that's going to change how you're going to be speaking to your clients across every single communication you have with them. It's also going to be setting what expectations they are going to be thinking about when it comes to relationships, and that includes the relationship you have with your clients too. So the good news is you can build your own versions of this right now with the tools that exist in today's world. You've probably seen a bunch of content on social media showing you how to do this. You can use Claude, for instance, to help you with your strategy and with your writing. You can also employ skills, and you can schedule those skills at certain times in the day. You can set up project folders for your particular businesses and clients to make sure that it just stays within that particular context window. And you can then link that up to a number of different ad platforms, whether it's Meta, whether it's Google, whether it is LinkedIn, the lot. You don't necessarily need to deal with Microsoft in this. You just need to have a clear process that someone can own within your business. So what I find here is that the businesses that I'm speaking to on a daily basis, they need to understand over the next 6 months, how does AI play in their work, in the processes that they build, and also the ones that touch their client and their relationships with them too. So that's why this particular news article has made it into today. The bigger firms are starting to become more agentic, and they are going to be raising questions when your clients will be raising questions when they read this type of news with you. And then finally, we just talked about how most teams have AI tools, but they're not actually changing how they're working with them. In that Gallup article earlier, the data showed that only 10% of businesses feel that AI has properly changed their workflows. So the biggest blocker I find when I'm working with my clients is that nobody has written down how the work actually gets done. And there holds a big problem, because you can't fix a process that only lives in somebody's head. You need to write down a standard operating procedure, an SOP. And this is how you can use AI in order to do that. Now, the first thing I want to show you is the skills tab within Claude Cowork. I have a whole host of skills here that I use to help run my business on a daily basis. But the biggest one that I have built out today is an SOP builder, a standard operating procedure builder. It's creating a clear, consistent SOP for my business, and every single one follows the same process. It has the same template, the same writing rules, the same quality gates, so anyone in the business can pick one up and follow it without having to guess. It then references a bunch of my own business context that I fed it, and it then writes it out here. I'm not going to go through the entire document here, but if you do want a copy of a templated SOP builder like this, just head over to my AI hub on my website. You can find a link in the description below. But let's try this SOP builder within the chat here. So first up, what we're going to be doing is I'm just going to give it a bit of a mock prompt here too. So I'm just going to use Whisperflow to help me build that out. I run a marketing agency with 45 staff. Here's how we currently handle our client onboarding and when a new retainer client signs with us. The account director gets an email from sales saying the deal is closed. They forward it to the account manager. The account manager then sets up a Slack channel, creates a Google Drive folder, and copies a template brief document into it. They then email the client asking for brand guidelines, all the logins, the past campaign data, any sort of analytics that come their way, and briefs that they've got for us. This usually takes about 3 to 5 days to get back to us, because the client sends things in lots of bits and dribs and drabs. Once everything arrives, the account manager then fills in the brief document and books a kickoff call. The strategist is supposed to then review the brief and do the competitor research, but this gets skipped about half of the time because they are busy on other accounts, and then the kickoff happens afterwards. The team takes notes within a Google document, and then the account manager creates the first month's task list in our project management tool. The whole thing takes about 2 to 3 weeks from signed contract to first work starting. Things go wrong when the client is slow to send assets, when the strategist skips the competitor research, or when the account manager forgets to loop in the creative team until week 2. Based on this, please can you write a clear step-by-step SOP using my SOP builder skill, and so that a new starter could follow this on their first day. Number 2, flag the 3 steps where AI could save the most time and explain exactly how. And then 3, estimate how many hours per week the team could save if all 3 improvements were in place. So there we go. I've got that whole SOP, or just basically dictating what's supposed to happen within this, and I'm just going to pop that into my SOP builder skill. We're going to give that maybe a couple minutes just to kind of kick off. You can say it's going to read the initial skill file. On the right hand side, it's going to be able to use the context as well as the SOP builder skill, as you can see here, and then I'll come back to you once that's all done. One thing to highlight, which I really like about Claude Code, is in the top right hand corner, it creates a progress bar, and it's just going to knock off each particular to-do list item so you can check in and see where it's going from. So in this case, it's drafting the SOP following the template and the writing rules. It's then going to flag the 3 steps where AI could save the most time. It's then going to estimate the time savings, present it for review before creating the document once it's done, and then create a branded doc file once it's then been approved by myself. We can then verify quality gates and pass on the final SOP to the department of our choice. Okay, so we're at step 4 now, where it's going to be asking me to review it. In this case, I'm not going to go through the ins and outs of it all. It'd be wise to do that when you're creating your SOPs, but for the demonstration, I'm just going to make sure that we can get this moving and create the final document. This all looks good. Oh, I didn't type it. This all looks good. Okay, so I've approved that. That should now go and create the document and just run a couple of quality gating checks for us. And there we have it. In the space of something like 5 minutes or so, it's then gone and created a document file that you are able to save in your workspace, in your area. And when you have a new employee starting, or if you just want to document your SOP, it's then gone and created. Here's just a quick little look at what it looks like. It's nothing special, but it's really, really important. And whilst SOPs can be very boring things, they are going to help you do work faster. You're going to be able to check out all the different things from a phase to a step-by-step nature. Let's just take a look here. So phase 1, which is the handover and setup, which is day 1. You want to receive the closed deal email from the sales team, confirm receipt by replying to the account director, create, invite, create, copy, post. If you just keep following this, you will have a seamless new retainer client onboarding sequence ready for you. So if any of this has helped, please do consider subscribing to the channel. I'm going to be doing this every single weekday. If you have any questions, pop them in the comments below and I'll help you through that as well. So that's it for today, guys, and thanks so much. Go and do one thing for me. Go write down one process and I will see you all tomorrow. Thank you.